Man, these headphones sound incredible. Are you someone who enjoys reference sound? Have you been looking for a headphone that presents audio in the most accurate and pristine manner? If these are the things that you look out for in a headphone, then let me introduce you to the all-new Audeze MM-100. In this video, we'll talk about how this headphone is built, how it sounds. So let's get started. Hi guys, this is Karan here, and in today's video we'll be talking about Audeze's latest headphone, the MM-100. Now, before we get into the details about this headphone, I just want to quickly talk about Audeze as a brand. Now, Audeze is an award-winning brand with some of the most advanced planar magnetic headphones out there. Their user base consists of Grammy-winning recording engineers, top-spending audiophiles, and some of the top personalities in the esports segment. Now, having that out of the way, I quickly want to talk about the collaboration between Audeze and Manny Marroquin, who is a multi-Grammy winning recording engineer, and with that collaboration you get two headphones. The first is the MM-500 and this is the affordable alternative to that, the MM-100. So starting with the unboxing experience of the MM-100, you get the MM-100 in this box, and this is a fairly standard box. Now within this box you'll get your headphones, you'll get a drawstring carry case if you want to carry the headphones with you anywhere. Along with this you get a cable. Now this cable is a pretty unique one. It has a 3.5 mm connector that goes onto the ear cups out here, and for the termination side you get a 6.35 mm connector. So having that out of the way, I now want to talk about the build quality. And let me tell you one thing, this headphone is built like a tank. I think this is possibly one of the best builds from the house of Audeze. So what makes it so special? Let's talk about it. So the frame of the headphone is made from magnesium and steel. I mean, when you lift this headphone, it really reassures you that it's made to last. Now, to support this frame, you've got this very unique headband mechanism. Now, instead of being a normal, regular, adjustable one, it is kind of a selectable hoop. So you get these three spots that you can adjust the headband to, and I think that provides the perfect clamping force for longer lifting sessions. So to support this headband, you've got these gel infused ear pads, and I think they have the perfect balance of cushioning and seal. I mean, these sat perfect on my ears. I had no issues with it whatsoever. So now I want to quickly talk about the connecting mechanism that I mentioned earlier on the cable. So the MM-100 now features a 3.5 mm connector on the ear cups, and they've got connector on both sides of the ear cups, so you can choose to connect the cable on either side. And I think this is very true and in line with a lot of legendary studio headphones. Overall, I think the MM-100 is exceptionally built. I think there is nothing in this price segment that even comes close to the MM-100 in terms of build. Moving on, let's talk about how the Audeze MM-100 sounds and what are the specifications in terms of the drivers and what is the frequency response of this headphone. So the Audeze MM-100 is an open back planar magnetic headphones. It features 90 mm large planar magnetic drivers on each side of the ear cup. Now with these drivers, the MM-100 is capable of delivering sound from 20 Hz to 25 kHz. Now this is a proper studio headphone and it manages to sound very close to the MM-500. What I mean by that is there is no coloration in any of the frequency ranges. There is no additional emphasis, especially in the technicalities and especially in the soundstage department. The best way that I can describe the sound of this headphone is that this kind of mimics or kind of replicates the sound of a studio monitor. So now, having said that, let's discuss each of the frequency regions in detail. So starting off with the low-end presentation on the Audeze MM-100. Let me tell you one thing, the bass, the low-end presentation on this headphone is just right. There is no amount of oomph, there is no amount of coloration that has been added in the sub bass or even the mid bass region. In fact, in my listening experience, when I was listening to certain songs, I could feel that there is a roll off in the sub bass region around the 50 to 60 hertz range. The MM-100 was able to render that quite well. Of course, it didn't have that thump, it didn't have that air moving feeling, but the texture, the timbre of that bass note was absolutely perfect. I have no complaints in the low end response. I am 100% sure a lot of studio professionals and even audiophiles who appreciate that accurate, pristine audio presentation, they're gonna love this. Moving on, let's talk about the mid-range presentation on the MM-100. And just like the low-end presentation, I'm again gonna use the word just right. The mid-range presentation on this headphone is absolutely immaculate. All the instruments, vocals, the male and the female vocals, they are rendered perfectly. Now to test the mid-range, to try to take it to its maximum limit, I played the track Flintstones by Jacob Collier on this. And for people who know this track, there are a lot of vocal harmonies. Jacob Collier's voice goes from the baritone range to the alto range, and this headphone was able to present everything quite well. I did not find any shoutiness, I did not find any exaggeration in that upper mid range. In fact, I thought that it had this really good resolution. So I think if you're a studio professional, the mid range on this is just as sweet as it can get. Now moving on, let's talk about the top end performance on this. Now the treble response on the MM-100 is a little bit laid back. It takes things a little a notch down. Now don't get me wrong, it has the right amount of air, it has the right amount of sparkle, it has the right amount of presence. But I'm kind of comparing this headphone in my mind to headphones like the MM-500 or even the new Headphone 2. Now these headphones, they are well extended. There is a level of micro detail presentation that they're able to deliver, but they cost 4 or 5 times of what the MM-100 costs. So I think there is a trade-off in terms of the treble response, but for what you get on the MM-100 is phenomenal. If you've never heard MM-500 or the Headphone 2, I think you're not going to complain about this. Now to test the treble response of this headphone, it was a bit tricky. I played a couple of tracks and I was not able to conclude how the response was. So kind of moved to a track that I know works really well in terms of the treble, response. Now the track that I played is called Wandering by Yoshi Horikawa. Now this track has a lot of ethereal elements, a lot of percussive elements, a lot of elements that sit in the treble region. And you know what, honestly, I really did not feel that the presentation on the MM-100 lacked anything. It was able to render the percussive hits well. The attack was just about right. It did feel a little dull, but I would not say it was inaccurate. So I think overall, the treble in compared to the mid-range and the bass is well tuned, and I think it does the job well and it will not disappoint studio professionals at any point. Alright, so having discussed how the MM-100 sounds and how the sound is presented in each of the frequency regions, I quickly want to talk about the technical capabilities of this headphone. Now, let me tell you, in terms of technicality, this headphone is flawless. I mean, especially in my eye. The dynamics are very well presented. I also feel that because the dynamics are controlled, this headphone reveals a lot of things. So you will hear a lot of background elements that you may not hear in a lot of other headphones. The transient response is quite fast. The attack on the transients is captured flawlessly. Now, this is true even if you're playing higher BPM tracks, and which I've done. I've played up to like 152, 155 BPM tracks, and this just handled all of that quite well. Now, an area where I felt that this could have been a bit better is the sound staging aspect of it. Now, I'm talking about this from an audiophile's perspective, and I think a lot of audiophiles out there are going to miss a certain level of soundstage. But having said that, I'm going to wear my music professional hat, and I think the soundstage on this is just about right. It is a bit narrow, but it still extends out of the headspace. I think it kind of works for the instrument separation. If you have a very wide sound on a professional headphone, the placement of instruments gets a little bit jarring, and I think on the MM-100, the balance between the soundstage and the instrument separation is done exceptionally well. So overall, if you ask me, this is a fairly capable technical headphone, and it won't disappoint in doing any surgical task that you have related to audio. So if I have to talk about the technicalities from a bigger picture, I think the MM-100 is a solid technical performer, and if you're using this for any surgical purpose in your audio requirement, I think this will live up to its name any day. So what is my take on the Audeze MM-100? I absolutely love this headphone. I have been an Audeze fanboy for a while now, and after listening to the MM-100, my respect and my admiration for Audeze has multiplied tenfolds. This headphone delivers on every front that it sets out to achieve. It delivers uncolored sound, you get great instrument separation, you get great technical performance. I mean, there's very little that I can complain about out here. Now, I know I mentioned that there is a little bit of an upper mid-range forwardness. Now, if you're someone who enjoys uncolored sound, a much more accurate sound, I think you're gonna lean heavily towards this headphone once you listen to them. If you're a music producer, if you're a music professional, hands down, there is no competition in this price segment when it comes to headphones for monitoring. Anything that you mix or produce on these headphones is going to translate to any medium that you're going to play it at. So overall, I think we've got a winner on our hands, and I think Audeze has masterfully tuned this particular headphone. Now, having said that, I have two gripes with this particular piece. The first is the headband mechanism. I mean, if they could have given us the traditional headband mechanism, I think this would have fit a lot more people. This could have been a choice of a lot more people out there. And the other thing is the ear pads are not replaceable. They're glued to the ear cup, and I think this could be a deal breaker for a lot of people out there. But for me, even after knowing these two things, I think this is just like a blind buy, a blind recommendation, and gets a big thumbs up from my end. Now, I know all of this would make no sense for you if you've not heard the Audeze MM-100. And if you'd like to hear the headphone for yourself, I invite you here to our experience studio in Mumbai. And if you're not from Mumbai, you can catch us at a Headphone Connect event happening at a city near you. So that was it for today. I'll see you in the next one.